All right, guys. First off, congratulations! UNF's first ever sand volleyball victory.
Yeah.
Just kind of talk about the match and how you guys did. Emily, we'll start with you.
All right. Well, we came out strong first set, won 21-8. Second set started a little slow. We were down by like 14-18. We came back and pulled it out and had a great couple serves from Care. Had a great couple serves from me. It was just team effort.
Welcome back to our second edition of Talon Talk. I'm your host, Brock Borgeson, and today we will have on the show the person you heard in a clip recorded nearly 8 years ago, March 9th, 2012, on the day the UNF Beach volleyball team recorded its first win in program history. That is Emily Strack, now current assistant volleyball coach and beach volleyball director of ops. She was heard in that clip and will be discussing her thoughts on the growth and evolution of the beach volleyball program here at UNF and kind of in Jacksonville throughout the country, and now into its newest era with the recent announcement of the Coop, the name of the future on-campus beach volleyball complex. And before we get going, make sure to check out everything in last week's action. It was a busy week here in the fall. We're coming off of a big day for the men's cross-country team that had two individual ASUN honorees. Sophomore Nathan Jubrin was named ASUN Runner of the Week, and Aiden Gorman was tabbed as Freshman of the Week. The volleyball squad also had their own duo earn weekly honors. Freshman Juliana Askew, now ranked 4th in the country in assists, went off for 70 against FIU last Saturday, and that 70 total was the most in 13 years in program history. She picked up ASUN Freshman of the Week honors. Redshirt junior Gabby O'Connell picked up Player of the Week honors, posting 72 kills, including performances of 25 and 25 kills, respectively. Men's soccer, women's soccer, men's tennis, and women's golf were all in action as well, along with the women's cross-country team. So make sure to follow along on UNFospreys.com to catch up on the latest news. But for now, we'll transition into our talk with guest Emily Strack. Thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Yeah, so for everybody that doesn't know, last Monday, we had a surprise announcement at the soon-to-be grounds for our beach volleyball complex here on campus. And a little bit of background on you. You were on that 2012 team, our first year of beach volleyball, and obviously are still working here. Just describe what you were feeling that day and if you thought that day would come and, how it feels.
Yeah, well, first off, just so excited. I think it's the first time I've cried in a while. It was pretty emotional, just being there for that moment to see the current student athletes kind of getting the dream ticket to build this facility that we're super excited about, and that honestly has been in the works since 2012 when I was just a baby sophomore, when it was the first season of UNF beach volleyball. It wasn't even called beach volleyball back then. It was sand volleyball. It was the first year. It was an AVCA, NCAA sport. Monday was very emotional for me. I'm super surprised, actually, how emotional. Just seeing their faces and knowing that how many other faces weren't there that were a huge part of the program, and seeing the growth in the sport. It's the fastest NCAA sport in growth. I think it was like 15 teams the first year, and we're over 100 now in 8 years. That's pretty darn quick. And just seeing the growth of the sport, even in the university, there was only 2 beach-only volleyball players the first year, and now we're up to 16. We have a fully running program during the fall. We travel during the fall. We get to play against the top talent. We've always got to play against the top talent, but now we're back to the point where there's enough programs, but we're beating and playing and competing against the top talent in the country, just like it was in the beginning, because there's only 15 teams back then. But it's so exciting. It's like the field of dreams. Build it and they will come. So so excited, even for the continued growth.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the evolution of the sport throughout the NCAA is going to continue to evolve. I mean, it's getting airtime on ESPN, and, a lot of big schools are picking it up. And obviously here it's gaining popularity, and now it's just great to have that on campus for recruiting and for the visibility of the program, especially where it is. In 2012, did you think at that time that that would be a reality, that the complex on campus would be a reality if that was possible? And then did you think that you would still be involved in the program by the time that we had it?
I definitely hoped I would still be part of the program. I knew that we would eventually do it. I knew that it would eventually happen. I didn't think it would happen this quick, in all honesty, and I hoped I would be part of the program. I always kind of saw myself as a coach in a player's body. My body didn't do exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't have the physicality always. I think in 2012, we didn't know any better. We didn't know that we were supposed to have a complex. We just knew that we were playing at JU all the time and beating up on JU and beating up on a whole bunch of other schools, and that was the norm. We didn't talk about a complex because we just did what we had to do with what we had. But seeing the growth in the sport and going to get to go to South Carolina, seeing their complex, LSU, Stetson, schools in our conference that have complexes. I mean, now it's the norm. And it's a way to function in the proper way, and not driving to Jack's Beach every other weekend or every other day, and not playing on rec courts. Those rec courts have done us great, though. They have, the history of the program is built on the Fountains courts. Those always have a special place in my heart, but I'm very excited to not be pulling up tarp underneath the sand and having, that building a full 5-court facility that can be used by the public as well, and that can be part of Jacksonville beach volleyball culture. That's super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of what I had thought about for this interview too, is just your connection to Jacksonville and how interesting beach volleyball is it having an identity in Jacksonville Beach, and kind of that niche subculture within Jacksonville that really fits the sport. And it's one of the reasons why it has there's such a possibility of it being a huge thing at a school like UNF. Go into just kind of the effort that it took over the years that you're aware of, from whether it's from our people in development here, you guys as coaches, the players, donors, all their generosity, upper administration. Just talk about what you saw from the effort and what it took to get this happening. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that even as a player in 2012, 13, and 14, I think that there was probably backroom stuff going on, like with admin talking about it, that I wasn't a part of because I was still playing. But I know that it probably happened that first year. And I'm sure that there were it's just laying down the foundation to build this facility. I know that maybe a year after I graduated, there was already like a drawn up a projection of what the courts would look like, where they would be. I've always known in the back of my head where they would be, right next to between baseball and softball. I thought that was a perfect spot. There's a grass lot just sitting there. I mean, what else are we doing? No, but I think started off pretty early. I knew that there was so much to go into it, and I know that everybody was like, when it happens. And honestly, in 2017, in that spring when Kristen Wright took over as head coach for both indoor and beach, I just knew, like within 10 minutes of knowing her, like she was going to get it done. She's got that mentality of just get it done. Like it's done. Like why not? Why not us? That's a great mentality to have as a leader. And I knew she would get it done. I did not think it would be in a year and a half. That's pretty spectacular if you think about it. But I know that that was the mentality coming in to take over the programs, both programs, was that Coach Wright would just get it done. And I know that she's got a lot of good contacts, and that she had people that she knew that this was a niche sport, and that Jacksonville is a spectacular place. And why not? So she's from San Diego. A little bit outside, but she lived in San Diego for the last couple of years, and she compares Jacksonville to San Diego all the time. She says it's a very similar atmosphere. You got the good city, you have downtown, you have the beach. It's a small town vibe. It's everybody knows everybody somehow, but like it's huge. So I think there was a lot that went into it this last year and a half, but I know for a fact that there has been a lot of work in the last 8 years to get this thing going.
How have you seen how have you seen the beach volleyball program here evolve in terms of the type of players that have come through, and what the identity of the program is, and just how it's meshed with the school's identity?
Yeah, I think since we won so early and went to the national championship the first 2 years, like we were one of those teams on campus that was expected to win, but nobody knew what we had to do to even just to practice. Beach volleyball itself is a grassroots sport. Like there's $1,000,000
It's kind of like an ultimate frisbee wiffle ball feel to it, in a sense where it's kind of rogue. It's kind of like a rogue, like kind of sport that's burgeoning in popularity, but like not everybody knows the
what's
ins and
going
outs
on.
of it. They don't know it's pairs. It's 5 people playing,
Right.
five courts playing, etc.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the grassroots part of it is that beach volleyball is like, okay, so when I was little, you would always, like, I grew up playing volleyball, but beach volleyball was like something like your parents' friends played in the backyard after they had a glass or two.
Yeah.
And they would just like have fun. And it looked so fun. And I remember watching my parents play beach volleyball like on a Saturday night at the beach. And, like little rec leagues. And I remember seeing it. And I remember playing like for the first time when I was like 12, maybe 11. And it was so fun, but I was so out of breath. It's a grassroots sport that I think now has really grown into something spectacular. I mean, you watch like UCLA and USC and these big power schools, like there's not 5'9" little girls out there. There's 6'3" indoor players that have now converted to beach because it is an individual sport. It's kind of like how tennis runs, where there's the 5 courts going. It's the individual, then it's also
and you
doubles.
get postseason. I mean, they don't do it, I believe, as the pairs play in postseason anymore at the national level.
No, they don't anymore.
Right, but it did for a while, and it kind
did.
of has that identity, and you still get pairs rankings and like doubles rankings in
Right.
tennis, and there's a lot of weird nuances that are slowly evolving and becoming known to me even.
Yeah, I think at UNF it's also like developed, like the athletes are spectacular now. I mean, not to say that we weren't, but I know that honestly, the 2012, 2013, 2014 team, we had a couple really good athletes, but we didn't have any true beach players, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where like now we've got girls out there like Donna Roskick and Callie Workman and Laura Galinas, like that are athletes and they're beach volleyball athletes, if that makes sense. Like they have the body type and the work ethic for beach volleyball. Now, I've never seen them play indoor volleyball, so I'm sure they'd be pretty good at indoor. It's very similar, but if you know the nuances, like you were saying, it is a different sport. It's totally different. I think the sport is a grassroots sport, and you're expected to work hard all the time off the court to make it function. And now it's just so exciting that they can just focus on playing volleyball.
Yeah.
Like, I know all of my alumni girlfriends are so jealous. Like, I'm jealous. But at the same time, like, I work here. Like, I'm going to still be a part of it.
It's cool
I
for
wanna go
you
out
because
there.
of the pride that you get to feel and the extra level of pride. Obviously, it's one thing for future people coming into the school and seeing it and identifying with it. But it's another thing also to just kind of wait for it and then have this be a reality. Going back to what you were talking about with, a lot of the transition players that go from indoor and then end up playing beach, and then you got like a Mad McCarty this year that now she just gets to focus on beach. She was an indoor player going to Winthrop. Now she comes here. She's a setter. If you see an indoor player, when do you know that that player could be a good beach player? What are the signs in an indoor side, or are there any?
Oh yeah, there's signs. First off, my personal opinion: setters and outsides make great beach players because they
Not
touch the ball.
DSs, not as much.
That's just generally.
Yeah,
No, but
okay.
DSs absolutely, like Angeli.
But overall, what you've seen?
Overall, in my personal
because
opinion,
Angeli's playing.
Angeli's a DS for us, where she can get on top and hit a ball, but the majority of her work indoor would be for back row only, so defense. So I think outsides make really great. Outsides probably are number one. Then if you got a really cagey setter like a Mads,
you kind of have to be gritty playing beach, so the setter is a little bit of a gritty position. Honestly,
I knew like that's why I was good at beach immediately, because of how I was setting. I was just aggressive and gritty. I would say you can also tell, if not by their like what position they play, you can tell by their eyes. Like, what do they see on the court? If they're a smart indoor player, like Gabby O'Connell is going to be out on the beach for us, and that's super exciting because she is a athletic freak.
Yeah, she is.
In my personal opinion, she can get up and bounce a ball straight down, and then she sees someone moving on defense and just will roll a ball right to a perfect spot. And that's what beach is. Now, it's all about the eye sequence and seeing what's going on in front of you. And if you can put the ball down in indoor when there's 6 girls, you can put the ball down when there's 2 girls on the sand.
So when you're watching the court and your court visibility is an outside or as a setter setting up a middle or an outside for an attack, where are your eyes going in indoor, and how does it change for beach? Like, what is the mental thought process for everything?
Yeah. Well, as a setter indoor, you're definitely basing it off the pass, and then you have to look and do basically a peripheral eye check to see
It's just
what
a lot
the
of
middles are
eye
doing.
agility.
Exactly. You're just doing a little look, glance to your right. Okay, the middle's
Is there
taken
training
off.
for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one drill we do a lot with our setters, and I did.
Do you go to the optometrist and just
No. That would be a good test. I bet majority of NCAA setters have 20/20 because you have to.
Interesting.
It would you just have to have good
you think
eyes.
about that all the time. It's like they have eyes in the back of their head.
Exactly.
I mean, part of it is repetition too, but yeah.
Reps obviously help, but if you're up at the net and you get a perfect set, you have enough time at the highest level to do an eye check, and you're not looking for something huge. You're looking for a slight lean. If you see a middle move into her right, oh, I'm going to throw that ball straight down if I'm in the front row. Now, if you see her moving and she doesn't know what she's doing, or your middle isn't up or whatever it is, there's obviously different factors. But for beach, it's similar. If you see someone make a slight shift, you're going to push it the other way. And there's a lot of now new things in beach where different, not mechanics, but fundamentals that you can do that defenders now show early. They go to the right and then they take off to their left. And
it's a little bit of a deke and
exactly. It's a
gamesmanship.
Exactly. So it's interesting. So you don't find that much in indoor. Indoor is just ball, set, swing, where beach is a little bit more of a mental game while still being physically more cardiovascularly, I think that's what exhausted.
Yeah.
It is. When I get out and get to play beach, I'm
well,
oh,
I mean,
Lord.
it's the surface. It's, dealing with
yeah.
that and trying to keep your, your strength going and, all the jumping that you're doing off of sand. And obviously the impact's less, but it's a bit harder.
It's much less.
Yeah.
It is. You could play beach. So I play beach at Jack's Beach all the time with my girlfriends. And I've got girlfriends, I'm not going to say their age, but they are definitely 20 years older than me. And so they're, 50, still kicking my butt. I'm not kidding. I have one girlfriend who's 46. She won't listen. Don't listen to this. She has beaten me in tournaments. And she didn't play D1 volleyball. She's just always played beach volleyball, and she just sees the court. And she's not stronger or faster than me, but she's smarter than me. So there's a joke that beach volleyball is kind of an old lady sport.
It's interesting because of where beach really blossoms, and obviously on the beach, and there are probably a lot of players that play religiously that have never played structured beach volleyball.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're very good at it, and they're very good athletes, and they could have played collegiately and maybe professionally. And,
100%.
It's kind of, like you said, a grassroots, part of that identity.
I know that I'm so thankful for beach becoming a sport when it did, because honestly, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at right now, and I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to come to UNF. Because I did come for both. I came for indoor and I came for beach. And I was the first class that was an option. And now it's more of an option. We get, Power 5 kids for indoor because they want to play beach. That's
a huge recruiting linchpin.
That's a huge recruiting. I mean, it has created a very dynamic indoor team while still growing our beach team. And that's basically what Coach Wright wants. She wants both programs to do well. She 100% invests her time into indoor during fall and 100% in beach during the spring. They are equal. They are on equal playing fields, and I feel like that is the biggest difference in the last 8 years, that it's not the stepchild of the indoor team.
Yeah.
That they are equal. They get the exact same amount of love, they get the exact same amount of TLC, and they get the exact same amount of work.
Remind me, circle back to that, just talking about the pure grind of, two things, balancing those, and how, I've seen it a little bit from the outside, but realizing, you're practicing in the morning here, and then you're shuttling yourself over to the fountains, practicing there,
right?
And just staying on as a coach. But to go back, talk about your time, in Tokyo, and then explain how you got there and what that was for everybody, and then if you thought beach could be part of your life, and then how you transitioned into playing beach here from JUCO.
Yeah. So my dad worked for the federal government. He was the attaché in the Tokyo embassy. So it's like ambassadors are number one, attaché is like number 2 or 3. He got the opportunity to move to Japan when I was like in 6th grade. And so when I was 11, we moved to Japan. We were supposed to be there for 3. We stayed there for 7.
Was that a good 7?
We kept requesting for another year. I would honestly, I would leave my job at UNF if I could afford to live in
Yeah.
Tokyo. Tokyo is pretty much the best place I've ever been. I've been lucky enough to travel a lot.
Were you downtown or were you
yeah.
suburban?
No, I was.
Yeah.
So
Because that's, I mean, to be downtown, there aren't
Yeah.
many places that are paralleling that
Yeah.
in the world.
So Roppongi is the Times Square of Tokyo, and that is where I lived. I lived
Better not
2
have
minutes.
epilepsy.
Yeah.
Down there. That's,
No, not 1 year in middle school. Now it might be setting on now. My eyes are going bad. No, I think yeah, it was an unbelievable experience. The government wanted us to live on the compound, which is like basically on the embassy, where my dad worked, and my dad was like, no, I want to go live in Tokyo. So they paid for us to live in an unbelievable apartment that I could basically see the Times Square. It's like downtown Roppongi. It's unbelievable. I went to an international school where the princess of Japan went to my school. She had her own building. She wasn't allowed to be with the common folk.
Okay.
I'm not kidding.
Royal.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, literally she had her own building. But it was an unbelievable experience. It's really where I learned my love of volleyball and basketball. Played both sports my whole life. My dad played basketball in college.
He was at Maritime, right?
Maritime University, yeah.
Mhm.
The Jay and
The
Ray
Privateers,
show.
I
Yeah,
think
the
they're-
Privateers.
yeah.
Yeah, they were Division 1 then. Now they're Division 2, I think. I can't.
I think in some
I may be
sports
wrong.
they
Okay.
are. Yeah.
But so my dad's Ray, and his best friend was named Jay, and it was the Jay and Ray show.
Okay.
And he'll
They
be
ran
proud I
it.
said that.
Yeah.
The Jay and Ray show. So yeah, he played basketball my whole life. He was my coach my whole life. I was like a little boy playing basketball. Then picked up volleyball. Just loved it. In 6th grade, my basketball coach was like, "You're tall. You should play volleyball." I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll try." Loved it. I immediately, because I was in Tokyo, nothing against Japanese people. They're my favorite people. I always say I'm 1/3 Japanese because I lived a long time there. I was the tallest girl. I was 5'11" at 12, so I haven't grown since I was 12.
Yeah, you were towering over them
I
at
was
12.
very tall. I was
Yeah.
very tall. I would have been tall here. But anyway, I had to play middle. So they were like, just threw me in the middle. But I played back row. I played middle school. And just threw me in the middle. I was like, give me the ball. I don't care. I just wanted to hit the ball hard. Yeah, but Japanese volleyball, they're very, very strict, just like with the rest of their culture and what they choose to do. So like if a Japanese person will say to you, like, yeah, I play tennis, like they're probably really good. Like they pick a sport. Basically in the Japanese culture, they pick a sport very early and they stick with it until like
it's a
they're
discipline to them.
Exactly. So learning that structured discipline type of Japanese volleyball early was really awesome. I really didn't play beach overseas. We weren't very
There
close
probably
to a
wasn't
beach.
probably wasn't a great opportunity for that there.
No, it was all indoor. And then when I came back to America my senior year, which was kind of a hard transition, kind of not.
That's an interesting time to come
Yeah,
over because I mean, especially for trying to figure out what you're doing collegiately and playing athletics. I mean,
Yeah.
that probably you felt like you
Yeah.
might have been behind the 8 ball a little
Oh,
bit.
I was 100%. Honestly, that is why I went to a junior college,
Okay.
is because I moved back when I was 17 and no one knew who I was.
Because you're just coming out of the weeds. You're
Yeah.
like, who is this person?
This is also
arriving?
in 2006 or 2008 when I was going to be a senior. And so the YouTube world was not even like fully kicked
It
off.
was
where
like 2 years into the mix.
You didn't create a recruiting page. It was just like coaches saw you or they didn't.
Huddle was still evolving.
Yes,
all those things. Yeah.
absolutely. Like I didn't have a Huddle account.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what that was, honestly. And my parents didn't realize how much I wanted to play volleyball. My dad was still praying and wishing
Basketball.
that I was basketball babe.
Yeah.
And I was not. I just got beat up too much. I loved it, and I was arguably better in basketball than volleyball, but volleyball was where my heart was. I moved to Fort Lauderdale. There was a girl on my high school team. Her name was Stephanie Pelletieri. She ended up playing at Florida State. She introduced me to beach volleyball, like real beach volleyball. So we played in high school for a bit. I still remain close friends with her. She's awesome. Like I said, she played beach at Florida State after. She was a couple years younger than me. And then I got the opportunity to go to a junior college, State College of Florida. It was the only school that really recruited me other than walk-on positions. And I just wasn't interested in going to a big school and not contributing. I'd always rather be a big fish in a small pond. And went to a junior college. Every single starter played in Division II or Division I after we won a state championship. We were very good. We went to the JUCO, NJCAAs, and we did not win, but we did a great job. We played, I had another Florida State transfer, my outside, Aurora Davis, who still plays AVP professionally. So we were really good. And then it came time to figure out what I was going to do. And a lot of my teammates who I went to junior college with were like teetering. Am I going to play? Am I going to play? Am I going to play in the next 2 years? It was never a question. I just had to figure out where I was going. Talked to the head coach at the time. Her name is Kevin Campbell. She's the associate head at NC State right now. Hey, Kevin. She's awesome. She's the one who gave me the opportunity to play here. She was like, you're an awesome setter. You're also a great beach player, because we got to play beach at my junior college. We had a fully running program. We were in Siesta Key, Florida, which it's ripe for beach volleyball. It's one of the biggest hubs in the East Coast. And so I learned how to play beach, like for real, played with Aurora Davis. And we won the Siesta Key NJCAA national championships for beach as well. And we got to play against teams. We got to play against the University of Miami in the finals, which was so cool. And there were scouts there, and that's how I got recruited. It was just, and I came on a visit, and I was like, this is it. I love Jacksonville. It is so different than what I thought it would be.
How do you think that being in Jacksonville and being at North Florida kind of, did it play a part in really amplifying where beach is in your life and how important it is because of the culture of the city?
Yeah, I would say coming from, so like in Fort Lauderdale, it's pretty big, and in Siesta Key, it's huge.
Right.
So that's where my junior college was. Then when I came here, it was just as big, and that made me so happy. I immediately met people that weren't affiliated with the school, but were just beach players, and they're still my good friends. And, beach volleyball has brought us all together, and I would say my collective good core group of friends are all beach volleyball players, where on an off day, if I have a Sunday off, we're going to 37th South. That's where I lived, down at Jack's Beach, and we built a court there in our backyard. I don't live on the beach, but I'm pretty close. I can walk. So we have a court there.
You definitely make that a part of your life.
Oh, heck yeah. And I've taught Ryan, my husband, how to play beach volleyball. And
how is he?
He played in middle school. So, and I remember one of the first conversations we had, he was trying to show off, and he was like, I was the sombrero. And I was like, you mean the libero? Oh.
You sure he wasn't joking?
I hope so. I'm not sure. He was like, I wore a different colored jersey. I was like,
yes, you're the libero.
You were the libero.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember. He's like, I had to pick baseball.
How do you think that the city, though, and, Jack's Beach helps, the program here?
Yeah. I think when we go down to Jack's Beach, I think we get so much attention. People are like, what's going on? Like, it's such an exciting sport. And because of the growth of the sport, it has, like, the athletes, like I was saying, they have they are true beach volleyball athletes. Like, they can get up and bounce balls, where when we were playing, it was a little bit more cut shots, a little bit more high lines. Now it's like true athleticism. Like, you can get up and bounce a ball straight down. In the community, we have always gotten really great feedback from everybody when we host the beach tournaments. Like, people come down, just, it's a day at the beach. Like, why wouldn't you want to be there? And the beach volleyball community in general, there's a couple different beach clubs, Jack's Beach Volleyball. My friend Kent Amons runs that. He is an amazing asset that we have. He's for juniors, and it's still growing, and there's so many girls now in the area that are playing club and playing beach, and it is possible to do both. If you love both, you should do both, until someone says you can't, and who are they to tell you? So you can still do it.
So I want to circle back to what I said earlier, just about the grind of being a part of both of the programs. And that's one of the unique things about a lot of schools that do host beach volleyball, is the demand for being a part of both. Just explain what the day-to-day looks like when you do have responsibilities for both, and you have recruiting for both, and during the crossover parts where you might have fall games for beach, and then responsibilities for indoor, and you're at a tournament in the spring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is an art to try to create a schedule that works for both, works for all staff, works for all players, and have a life. The last one is probably not really going to happen. If you're part of staff for both, like this last 2 years of my life have been straight volleyball, then straight to beach. So like for our schedule, we're 9 to 12 indoor practice, and then 12 to 3 beach practice, and then we come back into the offices, and then we're doing all the admin stuff, and then for travel, basically fall is indoor time and beach is springtime. but there are always going to be things that pop up now because of the growing of the sport. Beach volleyball isn't just a little side thing. It's fully running. So like, you'll have to have staff members that are specifically only for one sport that can help run when Coach Wright has to go back and forth. So in, I think, 3 weeks, Beach is playing down in Tavares. They're running a huge tournament, and we're here at home playing Kennesaw.
Right.
So like, we have staff that is full Beach that will take the girls there, and then they'll come back, and then honestly, our Beach girls will help serve our indoor girls, and they'll come to the games, and they'll come, sand still on them, sunburnt from a whole day of beach volleyball, but then they come support their teammates. That's how we want it to be. We don't want it to be two separate sports. When it comes to the girls together, they are all like best friends. It's 30 best friends. It's amazing to watch because they all understand the grind of doing both. The majority of, half of indoor is going outdoor. I mean,
right, this year, especially from what I've heard for the roster this upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's 7 indoor girls. That's almost half of 16. So, I mean, the majority of the girls are going to be together on that beach side. So it's important to build chemistry even from the beginning. And like when we do like team dinners at Coach Wright's house, we'll all go together. It's basically, it's a great atmosphere that we're building and continue to keep building to make sure that everyone is equal. Like they're all getting the same amount of love while still trying to create downtime, which, like I said, not happening.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, something has to be sacrificed for
absolutely.
it to be
But if you love it,
as good as you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be days when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. But like when it's my birthday and I got 36 cards, handwritten cards from all the girls, I was like, oh, are you kidding? Do not do that. Do not make me cry. This is so cute. And they're so appreciative. We have a very special group of girls that they love each other and they love each other well, and they love their staff, and we reciprocate, and we just want them to have the best experience. It's about their experience.
So obviously we're in the thick of indoor. Fast forward for just the sake, what are you excited for this Beach team? And obviously you got 20 wins again last year. You got Donna's coming in with her sophomore year after, having a great year and going to Canada and playing in Cali and Mads and, Lauren and, Kirby and everybody that wants to play from the indoor side as well. And now the momentum with the Coop. What are you excited for the season?
I'm just so excited to watch them compete. I think, like I said, it's a very special group of girls. I think they are all very grateful for what they get while still hungry for more. Where like last year we had a big upset, a big upset against number 17 TCU. And I mean, you would have thought we won the national championship. It was amazing.
A 3-2.
It was 3-2.
Yeah,
Huge.
Chaney.
Came down to Chaney and Tony in the ones. At the third set, I think we ended up winning like 16-14. It was very tight. I remember being on pins and needles myself. And just knowing that then the next day we drive home and like they're ready for practice. Like that's the most exciting, is that they're ready to grind and get after it. Like I said, it's still a growing sport, but they know what it takes to win, and then they know what it takes to come back from not winning. And I think that there's a lot of those feelings just because of ASUN conference last year and how we came up short. I think that there's a lot of grit and tenacity in them, and they don't want to feel like that again. I know that's a big thing for them, is that, to kind of redeem themselves from that.
Well, I'll be watching. I'll be there. So
yeah.
Thanks again, Emily, for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Brock. You're a rock star.
All right, Emily Strack. Thanks again for listening to this installment with Emily Strack of Talon Talk. Thanks again for being on, Emily. Next week, our guest will be Veronika Klimplova, sophomore second baseman on the UNF softball team. Klimplova, native of Brno, Czech Republic, is coming off time playing for her country in Japan, and has also played throughout the U.S. and Canada, representing the Czech Republic. So just kind of an interesting story there. Looking on in our athletics calendar, volleyball is going to face Mississippi State tonight and round out its regular season tournament schedule at the Hale State Invitational with Jackson State tomorrow. Men's soccer is at home this Saturday against Liberty and Tuesday against USF, while women's soccer plays host to Illinois State Friday, Western Carolina Sunday, South Carolina State next Thursday. Men's golf will go to Birmingham Monday for the Graham McDowell Invitational, while the women head to Gonzaga Collegiate Monday as well. Men's tennis will have a split squad sending players to Macon, Georgia for the Mercer Invite, as well as the James Bonk Invite in Durham, North Carolina, hosted by Duke. And the women's tennis squad will also be in Macon. So thanks again for listening to the second installment of Talon Talk. See you next Thursday for more news and another feature interview.